So the habits of health, the good habits of how healthy we are every day, and what we are doing to exercise those good healthy habits. In a sense like that, okay, you are indoctrinating yourself to have good healthy habits. What you're doing to retain those promises that you made yourself. Now it's easy to say that, all right, the job that you do every day that enables for you to work out. But in the long run, and this is really even a perfect realization that I came across learning about is you can just as well work the long hours to retain your income, to retain your ability that you're a productive citizen, right? But what about your health? What about your own, really, the self-esteem that you want to retain? One of the reasons today in the job markets, the private enterprise business areas of the job markets, the companies empower people to be healthy, to be well. The resources that we are given today. In the current company that I'm working with now, the healthy and well-being of resources that we are given is so that we can be healthy people. And that is the investment that the companies would give to us, particular, because we want to be healthy. Everybody likes to be healthy. But we want to actually know, are those healthy habits, will they follow? Are we able to still follow through? Like not resting on your laurels. It's okay to cheat at times, but not so much that you have to rest on your laurels. One of the critical, yes, even it's good to go to the gym, but also are we exercising our brains, the healthy brains? As I can just as well study more about why it's important to have a healthy brain, why it's important to read the books. I can give you, yes, proven facts from experts who would want to tell you, and yeah, well, it's just as easily direct you the links, to go to those links, to read about the links, to get even more constructive, motivated feedback. A person who's experienced, who's also even had a lot of reality, right? In terms of reality, right? The reality of where we are right now, today. The realities that we are exercising. You will only be that person in that reality if you decide to change it. You have to change your own reality. This is one of the things that, yes, reality today exists. We are in the reality. We have to be able to embrace the reality. But we want to also empower our abilities to know that, okay, we can still be in the good reality. Take the good habits that we then gain in the reality world, and critique our indoctrination habits. One of the particular reasons why I talked of success books, success books by Ray Dalio here, the principles, or the Discipline Equals Freedom by Jocko Willink, because these are one of the primary books that help to indoctrinate good habits from a success mindset. Now, if you want to be able to embrace your religion, that's important, but embrace it in a good way. One of the key factors today that, okay, we are enamored to be dependent when we go to our local church, when we go to our local mosque, when we go to a local synagogue. You also want to empower yourself to read about your culture, your roots, your religion, understand the language and the literature. It's easy to get dependent in any aspects of organization. It's easy to lose sight of knowledge and gain dependency on it because everything is so in front of us, at the push of a button, at the reach of our fingerprints. And because we're going to be grown to be dependable if we don't empower ourselves to exercise really not just the good self-enlightened habit, but also the good self-enrichment habit that can still enrich us to be more constructive every day, proactive. Like one typical example, I talk about it, successful people that we have heard of today in the news, in the finance streams. we can just as well empower our abilities to emulate them rather than be jealous. We can emulate with them, and then they can just as well be more. The market enterprise today, the successful people in the market enterprise today, and I'm dismissing the controversy and all of the debates that, maybe most of the time, some of the system have faltered, right? It's not a fair world. It's not going to be a fair world. And this is the premise of reality that we have to embrace. It's not going to be a fair world. So we want to be more empowered rather than have to push the fair exercises of rules and regulations. We want to just empower ourselves from a marketable perspective, right? Why we want to be able to produce is so we can keep embracing the realities. One particular reason, why we read books, why we want to build up the knowledge of books. And I know you've probably been told about this so many times. You've probably found links and videos. But I'm telling you from my experience, from my own perception, one of the critical investments I've made in my lifetime is books. The current job that I do, I buy books. I bought books so many times, and most of my investments of funds have been invested in books. And why I keep screaming about books is because that is your investment. That's what's going to get you going every day. I published my first book about finance, one of the most simply written books that I wrote, Investing, Best and Simple Steps, because I choose to empower myself. I choose to challenge myself. We should choose to challenge the traditional teachings that have taught us. Now, there are good habits of the traditional teachings. We may think that we have been enamored or brainwashed from the traditional teachings and what has conformed us. We can still empower ourselves. It's easy to ask for forgiveness, right? Forgiveness. You can forgive what you might have been enamored or brainwashed by, but move forward with it. That's the best gift or the method of any human ability, any human nature habit is to move forward, right? Even world leaders today, actually, they have to move forward with the decisions that they make. In particular, the world leaders that I study about. In the current presidential administration of, Joe Biden, the previous administrations of Donald Trump, going back to Barack Obama. Even the rules and laws they had to make were enact. They had to move forward with a decision, right? Because of the responsibilities that they want to be able to hold and preserve for the good nature of the government system. Now, as controversial as it may be to you, love it, hate it, make your minds up to it, but you got to move forward. This is the reality of today. We may know that, okay, we're enamored by so many opinions, so many controversial topics of the left wing, the right wing, the center wing, the moderates. What we want to really embrace and still help exercise even the citizenship habits today in your own communities. You can exercise your citizenship habits. You're a voter. That's why it's important to vote. Now, why did I get off in the hall of about voting process? Because voting, your right to vote, it counts in the ballot box. The constitutional right that you have living in America, for you to exercise that right is to vote, because your vote counts. Now, it's to say that we want to make sure that even the integrity and the preservation of the voting system is restored in a proper way, and that we want to be able to hold those accountable that might have violated the rules, right? That's one of the key critical things that we want to help educate ourselves, because not just from reading books, but also you want to keep sticking to your guns about the roots, the important roots that you've learned, even in your own families, even in your own religion. Why we want to still empower ourselves is so that we can still productively compete in the market world. when we think that, okay, the public service is important, those in public service, I have a high respect for most of you who have completed public service projects and positions that you have held. The message to give for most of the public service organization is exercise rules and regulations that can empower business owners, project leaders, companies to still be able to promote, encourage, and economic productivity in every company at large. Communities. A lot of the reasons why small businesses today empower themselves is so that they can keep themselves going economically. Higher taxes, higher wages would trigger the result to loss of the volume of labor, the productive labor. They have to cut costs in order to retain the premise of their company. The indoctrination habits that they exercise just so that way they can stay intact from really the survival method. You know, a lot of times, okay, we've been triggered in the neighborhood with the Darwin theory. The one correct information that I learned from the Darwin theory, Charles Darwin, who you might have heard of, who wrote the book on the natural theory of natural selection. There are just as many disagreements I have about him, which he is dead now, and to tell you that, okay, from even when our indoctrinations of our religion, our natural roots they encourage us so that we can keep surviving in the long runs of the good habits that we have to exercise, the good habits of the job that we have to hold. Even when, okay, from a job perspective, it's okay to survive in your job, but also it's okay to ask yourself for a promotion. It's okay to change a job if this part of the job or the organization will not help match really the positive values that you're looking for, right? In terms of change, career. We change careers, we change positions. It's okay to bloom ourselves and plant more seeds in more private-based organizations, and just as well as public service-based organizations, right? Because that's how we grow as human beings. People, by nature, we are hunters and gatherers. It just as well even explains in the characteristics of, okay, in the Holy Quran books that you read about as Muslims, right? For Christians, in the Bible that we read about, we expand, we elaborate. We want to be able to move forward every day. Yes, learn from our mistakes, obviously, right? But move forward. Move forward in every action of even just basically why we are sometimes bitter. You know, I asked this question, and you've probably heard of this question before by, one of the well-known previous presidents, right? Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan always asked this question in his speeches. Are you better off now than where you were 4 years ago? What would you have done 4 years ago that you can do now today that can help you better off turn yourself around to meet the best written goals that you have had? Sacrifices that we've had to make when we've had to travel so far away, for those that, served in the military, for those that have joined basically volunteer organizations. It's so that way they had to make ultimate sacrifices really to help feed not just their families, but to feed themselves. The quality, the knowledge, the experience. Now today, because with marketable resources, we can just as well create more avenues to regain really the freedoms that we have, right? The freedoms that we want to be able to exercise as Americans. One of the values of we've learned from the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. We can still retain those freedoms today and still compete productively in the capitalism market that we have in America today. I'll dive more into the topics about indoctrination. And yet still talk about the values of it. why the piece of basic values of indoctrination is just as important in the qualities that we want to be able to exercise. You know, I particularly, why I go back to books, because of the bookshelf that's behind me. I have so many books. You can just as well feed yourself more knowledge of information by reading books, or even challenge yourself to write a book. And this is one of the reasons why yet today, when we are inclined to get too comfortable, we're just as well going to be enabled to depend ourselves, to be dependent on others. So if you have more tools of information, if you have more tools of avenues and accesses, you don't have to be dependable on another person or another organization or another entity. When we have more, we're just as well empowered to move about freely from a capitalism set of principles that we are in America today. And just as any other countries that you've traveled to, Europe, Asia, Africa, most other countries there are more jealous about us because of the capitalism economy that we have in the democratic-based principles. Most people from other countries want to come to America because they see like the melting pot of everybody that wants to gain a piece of the American freedom, the American pie, the American land, the American piece of property, your right to own a property, the right to start a business, to be able to exercise all those quality of habits, is so that way you can give more people the avenue to succeed. Paying it forward mentality. So I'll touch base more about just results of why we want to still be able to retain our empowered abilities to be proactive, to gain the good knowledge of why we want to basically retain the basic indoctrinations of the information that we learn about. It's so that way we have more of an entrepreneurial spirit than a static or lower spirit habits. When we rest on our laurels, then we're just as well indoctrinated in bad healthy habits that turn us down, that keep us down, that keeps our low self-esteem lower to the bottom of the Richter scale, like you look at on the temperature scale, right? So anyway, take this topic, love it, hate it, make your minds up to it. We'll catch you around next time.